After doing some out and about videos, I wanted to try a shorter sit-down video topic about something that interests me. I hope this is a good idea. Please enjoy ranking every transit system that I've personally used.
Okay. Before going in, I want to get into two honourable mentions. These are two that I have used in the past, but for one reason or another, I don't want to rank. Honourable mention one is for Tyne and Weir Metro. Thinking back logically, this must have been the first train system or metro or something that I used, and from what I recall, it's really good and underrated. It's around Newcastle and Sunderland. It's a kind of light rail metro hybrid. It's deceptively big, mainly because it just loops back around on itself. And it's not what I see a lot of people talk about. So I think if I were to rank it, it would actually do quite well. I haven't been on it since I was a little kid, so I can't really objectively rank it. So I'm not doing it here. But that's my first honourable mention. The other system I'm mentioning here, but I'm not going to rank, is the Palma and Soler system in the Balearic Islands in Spain. This is, of course, on the biggest of the islands, Mallorca, which is very much a tourist hub. And hidden away on it is this kind of metro system that's very much for the residents and university students there. It's a really interesting one. It's not in a place you'd expect to find a metro, but it does seem to serve its purpose as a commuter system well, and it's just an interesting one to look at. There's also a heritage rail line that goes to kind of a coastal town on the north side of Ireland, Soler, and that itself also has a heritage tramway through the centre. I didn't really use either that much, sadly, and it's been a while, and it was definitely on a family holiday thing before I really developed my enthusiasm. So I'm not going to rank it there either, but it's definitely one I would like to explore more if I ever go back to Mallorca of some sort.
This is Editor Adam here. I've just realised that I have missed one city of here, Bratislava in Slovakia. I think ranking lists retroactively probably 14 and a half, which you'll see what 15 and 14 is in the video here. It's got a solid tram system, it was my first trolleybus, and it's got some good sights. I would recommend checking out Bratislava if you get a chance at some point, but that is just my quick inserts for video. And now to start my ranking. Apologies for that.
Now it's time for my ranking. I have 19 systems in total written down, and I'm going to see what I can do here. Number 19, bottom of the list unfortunately, is Sheffield. Sheffield has a really nice tramway. It's got several lines. It goes to a lot of the important places in the city. It's got a really good geography for a tramway. Sheffield is deceptively hilly, and the tram just goes up that hill like it's nothing. It's great. The one thing that holds Sheffield back and why it's bottom of my list is just frequency. It just does not have frequency. It's got like regional rail level frequencies. It shouldn't be like every 15 minutes off-peak for a tram, or half an hour even. It's got the density and stuff for frequency, it just needs it. Also expand the tram train to Doncaster. Number 18 on my list is Baltimore in the United States. This is what I remember about Baltimore. It's got a solid light rail. US light rail systems don't always have the best geography, but Baltimore actually does. It's got a decent route. It goes through the city centre and it serves some desirable periphery locations, and it's not bad. The subway is a bit less awkward, a bit more awkward, I mean. I never got to use the subway from what I've seen, but from what I get, it's just kind of like an orphan system. Like, it would be better if just the line use and connections around it would be better. Which is a shame, because Baltimore on the NEC, it probably can have a good transit system. It's just a lot of half measures, if that makes sense. That's number 18. Number 17, which I'm controversially lumping together, Rotterdam and The Hague in the Netherlands. These are probably technically separate, but there is like a tram interurban line that connects the two, so I'm lumping them together here. Rotterdam, solid light rail S-Bahn system. The Hague, a very strong, like, old school tram streetcar system. I don't really have a lot to say about them, which is probably my takeaway from it in general. It's a solid system, just nothing really noteworthy stood out to me in my experience using them. That's all I really have to say about it. I think the fact that they're connected by interurban is nice. Remember Rotterdam replacing like kind of one of the sprinter lines with part of their metro, which is good. It's definitely held up a lot by the fact that the Netherlands is pretty much the entire country is just a top tier commuter system, so that definitely elevates it. But with all the urban rail systems in the Netherlands, Rotterdam and The Hague combined probably ranks the lowest, unfortunately. Number 16, Brussels in Belgium. Brussels, meeting out to fun pre-metro stuff, where it's kind of like tram tunnel and metro hybrid with the intent they'll eventually turn it into a full metro at some point down the road, which they have done on a few lines. Don't experience a lot of pre-metro, so it is kind of quirky to go around that. And that is something I enjoy whenever I end up in Brussels after to go somewhere else. The one drawback I remember about Brussels is that maybe it's just me, but I don't remember Brussels having very good wayfinding. Like I consider myself good at maps, and I get lost in Brussels stations. It's hard to describe. I'll just probably have to do a proper analysis of it at some point. Brussels also has a solid tram system, which is good, but overall, it just ranks a bit low because of that wayfinding issue, and because it's just a solid metro that's fun because it's pre-metro, but otherwise just does its job. Number 15, I put down Nottingham, which is the closest to what would be my home system. Nottingham has a really nice two-line tram system. It's very much a university town, so it's excellent for that. It goes to the desirable places. It's got good signal priority and separation without being overbuilt in that regard. It's just a solid tram system, probably one of the best in the UK. Don't really have any complaints about it. Maybe the fact that I'm comparing it to Sheffield and its really low frequencies, that Nottingham just stands up alongside it with its every 7 minutes on the branches seeming excellent in comparison. But that's where it stands on my ranking. Number 14, I put Utrecht, also in the Netherlands. Utrecht is done well in my list because I think it's got the best bus system of any non-BRT city in the world. I love what they've done with the bus system and the bus branding there. Like, for example, your regular buses, they have different colouring depending on whether they go to the city centre or not. So wayfinding is really easy there. And then on top you have kind of like 5 dedicated fast buses with their own line colours. It's just really well thought out. It's one of the few cities I've been to where I'm like, yeah, I could use the bus and find it really easy. It's great. They also have a tram line, which is what qualifies it for this urban rail list. And it's a solid tram line. It's mostly there to complement the buses with capacity, and it's nothing too special outside of that. But definitely the rest of Utrecht's transit connections is definitely what elevates it. Number 13, I put Washington DC in the United States, District of Columbia. This is a fun system. It seems to be the lowest pure metro system on my list, which is a bit of a shame. It does lots of things really well, but I've definitely heard over time since I've been, like, it does have some frequency and maintenance things and such. I think Washington would rank higher if they fused the MARC and Virginia Railway Express together and turned it into a proper S-Bahn system. That is my wish list for Washington DC. But otherwise, solid metro. I'm glad the Silver Line is open. But it could definitely do more than just a subway. Number 12, I put Marseille in France. Marseille, a good variety of stuff. It's got 2 metro lines, I think 2 or 3, maybe a bit more tram lines. All of them are solid. I don't really have much to say. It's definitely focused on like the waterfront of Marseille, which is, of course, where I go if I only have a day to visit. So I don't really know how Marseille fares with like the overall city, but I did have a good time there, and it's fun to see a rubber tyre metro again. Just reminds me, Marseille, probably the craziest tram designs I've ever seen. Definitely pull up a picture here. Just what's going on there. It's just beaten out by another city on the French south coast that I will get to soon. But before then, number 11 on my list, Torino, Italy. I was a bit let down when I went to Torino. Its tram lines do seem to have a frequency issue. I don't know if that's just the day I happened to be there, but like, it did wait a while for transfer, and eventually I did like take the metro as an alternative, even though it was a longer walk. But it was just more consistent to me. But speaking of that metro, Torino is an actual small city, unlike Helsinki, Reese, that has a fully fledged vowel system that they're expanding. And I will stick up for vowels. Yes, they're a bit gimmicky, and a regular railway would probably work just as well. But like, vowels do not deserve to be like in the same category as the Vegas loop. Vowels are great, and Torino is like a great application of it. They basically copy and pasted the French system, stuck it in a small city. You just have this small city with a fully fledged metro system. Like, they're expanding with new lines, which is just fantastic to see. Torino also has a really good commuter system that they're also expanding. When I think of a city that is punching far above its weight in transit things, my mind just goes to Torino. I have a lot of good things to say about Torino. If you want to build something on a budget, look at Torino. That's my rant. Number 10 for my top 10, I put Montpellier here, also on the south of France. Montpellier has maybe the best city centre I've been to. It's lovely, walkable, well shaded. It was just a joy to be in, and it's supported by a really solid tram network as well. I went there for the 22 figure skating world championships, and list's going to be negative, but the tram line to the stadium there goes down the median of a road. Median is clearly wide enough for 2 tracks. It's single track there. Like it's one of those things where, like, I don't see why they didn't just build its double track to begin with. I get the initial cost savings, but international sporting events, come on. But otherwise, Montpellier is just a pleasant place to be, and I think the tram system is a big part of that. Definitely would love to go there again. They're making fares for residents of Montpellier free very soon, I believe, which is great to see. Number 9 on my list, Dublin Island. Dublin is underrated as a transit city. I'm just going to say that. It's got really good tram lines. I get that the geography of them maybe isn't the best, but they are good to use. And the Dart is basically, hey, we have the Yamamoto line at home. Maybe that's an overstatement, but rolling stock are built by Japanese manufacturing. You can kind of see it when you look at it like that. And it's just a solid commuter system. Why I think I'm ranking Dublin this high is that Dublin has maybe the most potential on this list. The Dart Plus programme, if built in full, would just be excellent for the city, and they're building an automated metro for it as well. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening with Dublin, and I think people should keep an eye on it in the future as it builds it out. There's real potential for Dublin to rise up the rankings of good transit cities in the future. Number 8, New York City, United States. Great world-class subway. Definitely really pleasant to go around. I definitely want to include the commuter rail systems here, PATH, Metro North, LIRR. I didn't really get a chance to use them, sadly. But subway is good. It does unique stuff. The express things are great. They get to everywhere you need. That's great. I do hope it can get some expansion and such in the future. I definitely know that's a bugbear a lot of locals have with the system, which is why it's not ranked higher. Number 7, I put Amsterdam, the Netherlands. When I think of Amsterdam, it has a very well-deserved reputation of being one of the best urbanist cities in the world. Great walking, great cycling, good public transport. I don't love the public transport in Amsterdam. And sitting down to think of it, I think it's a case of a good at everything, master of none situation. It's got a good metro, but it does have a kind of awkward alignment, as it's mostly following the median of a lot of highways for the most part. Plus, historically, it had that awkward, tram train connection, which kind of brings it down. It's got a good tram system, but it's got that typical old school tram system where, to an extent, it's kind of a glorified bus. It's good, but it gets stuck in traffic like a bus would and such. Really high quality all around, but definitely brought up by the fact that it's the biggest Dutch city, rather than it's Amsterdam in particular. Those NS sprinters are doing a lot of work for it, which I realise sounds dismissive, but I do like Amsterdam. I hope its metro can grow in the future. Number 6, Zurich, Switzerland. Zurich probably has the best railway system of a city that does not have a dedicated metro. Its S-Bahn is phenomenal. Successfully fuses like metro elements with intercity, and it's got the S-Bahn, which is like one of my favourite lines in the world. Goes up basically a mountain train. It's just a joy to use and get around. Solid tram system as well. It's expanding. I don't really have anything bad to say about Zurich. I'd love to go again. The top 5 now. At number 5, I put Munich. Munich, good metro, good trams, probably most well known for its S-Bahn. If you challenge someone to think of like a typical German S-Bahn, they'll probably think of Munich and slap one picture of like the bridge going over the tunnel. It's just a nice city to go around. Don't really have much more to say about that. The S-Bahn probably carries it up a few spots. Its subway is good, its trams are good, but its S-Bahn is what everyone knows it for. Number 4, I put London. London Underground, one of the best in the world. Fantastic that we've got the Elizabeth line recently, which is an underground line, I'm sorry to say. It's got lots of kind of underrated secondary systems as well. The Overground's fantastic. The Croydon trams are underrated. The DLR was revolutionary. I hope it can get some expansions in the future. Maybe I'm just a bit down on that, but I feel it would rank a bit higher if it had expansions. And maybe because it is somewhat close to home, I'm just like a bit more familiar with it, and thus it ranks a bit low because of mundane reasons. But London at number 4. Number 3, Berlin, Germany. Kind of a lot of the same as the London reasons, but I rank it higher because I think its S-Bahn elevates it a lot. It's like, Elizabeth line. Well, Berlin basically has 3, and going forward, I think it's just a really nice city to get around. Perhaps more so helped by short station frequencies and such. It has been a while since I've been to Berlin, so my memory of it is a bit hazy, which is why perhaps my opinions on it are a bit vague. But I just remember it being quite hassle-free, fun, good variety of systems, good stuff. At number 2, I put Paris. In the great Paris versus London debate, I think the London Underground is better than the Paris Metro, but Paris has the better overall big picture system. It's got the RER, obviously, which is essential to the city's life. It's got really good use of trams. It's where piecemeal building up to fill in transit gaps where perhaps a full new metro system don't make sense. It's doing some good it's doing some good things with bus rapid transit. It's got the Grand Paris Express coming up, which I look forward to trying in the coming years. It's got the cable car, which I did want to make a video on, but I lost the footage for. Shame. But yeah, I really like Paris, and I think it's probably the best well-rounded system on this list. It just does everything really well. Number 1 on my list, I put down Vienna, Austria. I think Vienna's here because I think it's the prettiest metro I've been to. It's got a great kind of 70s art style that I think has actually held up really well. And I think that does contribute to a lot of my enjoyment of it, perhaps a bit more than I objectively should. Frequencies could be a bit better, I think, but it's built up by probably my favourite tram, like streetcar system in the world as well. And it's got a good S-Bahn too. I think Amsterdam is the closest thing to compare it to. And when I just think Amsterdam versus Vienna situation, if Amsterdam is the master of none, I think Vienna is kind of the master of all. Definitely place to improve, but I don't think any other system makes me happier than Vienna's. That's why it's number one for me. List of mine will undoubtedly grow over the year. Expect a sequel at some point. Definitely some good things that I'm curious to see where would rank in the future, but that's where I am for now. I hope you enjoyed. Take care.